Welcome back to this, I guess, new addition to the podcast where I'm just interviewing badass individuals and trying to pick their brain, trying to get better. And yeah, so this time I've got a two-stroke phenom, Cody Williams, with me. This is a dude that I first met in, I believe, when did I get hurt? Because it might have been 2019 when I came back. And this kid basically, I think I qualified 36th, and then he qualified like 18th on a 125. I was blown away, and we've kind of been friends ever since. And then the journey with, okay, I don't want to race motorcycles anymore. And then he decided to start doing Ironman. We kind of went from there. And now he's a two-time winner in a 70.3, which is fucking ridiculous. So here we go. What's up, Cody?
Johnny, what's going on? No, it's been a journey, and it's been a fun one since I met you back then, and I think our paths crossed at Lakewood, and just been friends, been following each other since, and yeah, how similar stuff is went, and funny paths we've shared, and yeah, it's been a good one.
Well, it's interesting when it comes to moto fitness on stuff, because I really think a lot of people don't fucking understand like what true fitness is. Like people, okay, that might be perceived wrong, but there's that ideology that like moto is, you've got some of the fittest athletes in the world. And like, I don't necessarily disagree with that, but I wouldn't really call them like endurance athletes. Like they are there's a difference between volume and intensity. Their fitness is very intense related. And I guess maybe you could say that the endurance is over like a long haul of like 33 races, but going hard for 35 minutes in zone 5 is different than going hard for 5 to 10 hours in zone 3 and 4. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, big difference. They're, probably way better at shuttling lactate than, you or I are now.
Okay, go a little bit more into that. Like lactate is when.
Yeah, I guess I guess I don't have the proper term on that. It's something I've been getting into more, training with lactate rather than heart rate. Because in the endurance world, you want to stay under a certain zone so you can, you don't want to blow up. You don't want to push into your LT3, which would be like your lactate zone 3, where your body is producing more lactate than it can burn off. So then that's where you'd get the burning effect in your legs or your arms, or may cause arm pump, may not. Don't really know. I don't know if anybody knows where arm pump really comes from, whether it's just holding on too tight, stressing, going too fast. But it's
not breathing.
Yeah, they're probably just better at shuttling that out of their body, because they can, for 35 minutes, you can probably be in lactate zone 3, 4, or 5, however many zones there are. And you don't have to, you want to be able to make it to the end of the moto with being as fast as you can. Where in an endurance event, you need to be able to stay under a certain zone, because if you're racing for 4 hours and you're 30 minutes in, an hour in, and all of a sudden you have that burning sensation, it's going to be pretty much impossible to finish for the rest of that event at what you're trying to do.
Okay, so like essentially lactate is when you're producing more than you can get rid of. That's when you literally go from like pushing to then surviving, right?
Yeah. I mean, some examples would just be like somebody has a awesome first 25 minutes of a race, and you're just like, man, they're on it, and all of a sudden they hit a wall, and that could be their lactate was too high and they couldn't sustain that. Past weekend, one of the I can't remember, it might have been Levi, Kitchen in the 250 class, he had to kind of just slow down for a second in the middle of the race, regather himself, and bring himself back together. And he put on a late moto charge, after essentially just blowing up, trying to keep up with Hayden in the first few minutes or half the moto. And you saw him able to pretty much, by the way he trains, he was able to get himself back together without stopping, still ride an incredibly fast pace, and bring himself back to that pace again, and catch back up and stick in the top 5 there. So that's just goes to show guys like that put in the work, and it's a funny game that they play, we play, we all play it.
Well, AP did the same thing, where he looked like he came to almost like a crawl pace, where it was just surviving. Um,
Yep.
and dude, how old are you? 30 now?
Actually just turned 30, which was pretty depressing when I got to the Ironman event. You know, you go up the age groups and it's like a 5-year age gap, and I was actually still 29, and I raced one this year, and I was in the 30 to 34 age category, and I was like, oof, I am not getting old, but man, it was frightening seeing that three before 3 there. It was
The same thing
30 years
during my last Ironman. They put me in the 35 to 39. I'm like, dude, I'm 34. Like, what the fuck's this, man?
Yeah.
So you've been chasing this for a while, dude, because I remember you being an age group, you know, like I think we're on like your 7th Ironman by the time I did my first. And your goal was to qualify for Worlds. And then you ended up going to Kona. Do you mind sharing a little bit of that experience? Was your plan on to just race Kona and then turn pro, or what was it?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I got into the sport just with man, it might have been 2020 during COVID, 2021, somewhere around there. You know, it's 5 years have flown by now, but
I guess
yeah,
real quick, back up. Like,
yeah.
what made you get from Moto to Ironman, especially
Um,
as thinking that it was going to be like a transition from, hey, I was a pro motocrosser to now I'm going to be a pro triathlete. What idea was that?
yeah,
What transpired to do that?
I guess you know, I saw the end of motocross coming. Not racing, you know, racing for fun or racing at a local pro-am level, still making money there, but you know, it just it had ran its course of the privateer. You know, I'd been in the top 15 consistently all the time, top 20. And it just, you know, I was like, all right, I see the end of this, and wanted to get a job and still continue racing. And then I guess I just didn't have the passion to race at the local level as much anymore. And I wanted to do hard stuff. I wanted to train. I wanted to just keep doing stuff. I love training. I love training hard. And I guess one of my buddies was just like, I'm doing this triathlon, Chicago Triathlon. It's one of the biggest Olympic distance races. So like right around a 2.5 hour race in the country, in the world. And I was like, oh yeah, I can do that. I race motocross. Of course I can do a 2 hour swim bike run race. That sounds easy. So I signed up for it, absolutely destroyed myself, said I was never going to do another one ever again. Pretty sure I stopped training after that. And then yeah, a few weeks later, I was just like, you know what, this is something I really want to do. It was fun. It was intense. It's like doing a 30-minute moto, but for 2 hours, 4 hours, 8 hours. It's you lock in, you do it, and it's so much fun. And I love that chasing. I love being not the greatest swimmer. You can chase for 4 hours, 8 hours, whatever it might be, and yeah, it's fun. So they kind of just led to that, and yeah, there's so many goals, whether it be turning professional or winning your local sprint Olympic distance race to winning a larger national branded Ironman event. You can have goals all the way along the way, and it's something you can do at a super competitive level when you're 25, 35, 40, 50 years old. And so it was more of a lifelong passion that I want to stay active. I want to stay in sports. I want to stay chasing something, and it was just it worked out perfectly to where I could take what I had and transition into this, and it's so much fun.
Okay, well, now back to Kona. Okay, so you did your first big Ironman in Kona. Was the goal then to turn pro after that?
Um,
Because
not. I mean, the thought of going pro in triathlon sounds fun and sounds good. I love where my life is at. I love enjoying it, and in racing, it's almost like dirt bikes. It becomes a job. It becomes a full-time thing that you struggle having any fun outside of it if you want to chase that professional dream. It's a lot more work than motocross is as far as consistency, time hours. You're working out at least twice, if not 3 times a day, trying to fit that in with a job and all that stuff, and it becomes a lot. So I didn't really know if that was the plan. It's always been a thought of like, this would be really fun if it lines up, and if where I can transition and and in reality make money at it. But it's not my long-term goal at the moment. So when I guess before Kona, it was, that's the dream of every triathlete, every Ironman athlete is to go to Kona, to do well at Kona, to experience that unrelatable vibes. It'd be like going to A1 but on steroids for 2 weeks, and it is insane, the environment at these races, at Kona in general. It's if it's something that you want to be passionate about, it's something you got to try. And so I guess the Christmas before, my fiance and I were watching a video, and it was about Kona, and she's like, "Oh, that is amazing! I want to go to Hawaii." Well, then one thing led to another. We started looking up of what could I do, and there was an Ironman in Texas because you got to qualify for it. So usually you have to get top 3, 4 in your age group to qualify for this big event in Hawaii, the full Ironman World Championships. And yeah, she was like, "Oh, I would love to go there," and we would love to go there. And yeah, signed up for an Ironman in Texas and went there and trained for, well, I've specifically trained for about 2 months for it and pretty much just rushed into it. Went to Texas, did great, got my Kona slot, and then, yeah, trained for Kona. And honestly, I had big goals. I had no idea what the island would bring on me. It's hot, it's humid. You're doing a 9-hour race in a tropical place that is just brutal. So, yeah, I guess the professional dream is there, but it's just something that I'm not chasing. If it organically happens, then I'll gladly do it. But I'm thoroughly enjoying where I'm at with this sport at the moment.
Well, dude, I mean, your times are 4 hours for a 70.3 is just, it's mind boggling to me, dude. Like, my best time is a 5:28. And to be honest, like, my swim is 46 minutes. So the swim is awful. And then to be seeing you running this last time, you were running what, 5:55s off the bike?
Try to settle in around there. Does that happen? Sometimes not. This last race I was actually at in Rockford, it was so hot. And so I just did the 70.3 in Rockford, and I think it was 81 or 82 degrees at 6 a.m. right before the race started. So naturally already hot. Humidity's at 90%. And the high for the day was, I think, 96, 97 degrees. And, anybody knows if you're racing a marathon event or a half marathon, they're going to cancel the event standalone because that's too hot for runners. Well, we're swimming and then biking for 2, 3, 4 hours and then running. And, yeah, it was so hot. And like you said, 5:55 pace, and you want to go out at that and run it. But I got off the bike, and me in first place were running together, who's actually my teammate. And we both went out about 6-minute pace the first mile, and I was roasting and just slowed it down. And I settled in at like 6:30, 6:35. And, for me, which is, you add that up over 13 miles, that's 7-8 minutes slower than what I want to be running at. And to think that you could still come away with a win or a good run split or good enough run. I think it was second fastest on the day. Out of 2,700 athletes was crazy, just because you have to know yourself. It's just like racing Southwick. If it's super hot, well, guess what? You can't sprint as fast at the first 5 minutes of the race, because that track is going to beat you up and beat you to a pulp by 30 minutes into the moto, and you're going to be, like you said, with some of them guys, you're just laboring out there.
So small transition. What do you think is going on with Jet and Tomac? Okay, do you think Tomac is riding at, just for the analogy that we've been using, his 6-minute pace when it's super hot, so he's at 100%, where Jet has slowed down and he's able to consistently recover?
Yeah, I have thought about these things a lot, whether it's Chase, Jet, Eli, even Hunter. There's like kind of that group of guys that, Aaron, I guess, also as well now has really pushed himself into that conversation of a front five kind of group there. And I think, somebody like Jet has so much talent and just pure effortlessness on the dirt bike. Maybe he is trying, but he sure as heck does not make it look like he's trying. But dang well that he's given it his all. And I've tried to think about why does he make it look like this? Why does he always have that extra gear? And I think I think you talked about it, where you said he's riding at 80%, and he has that extra gear to give. Somebody like Tomac, well, everybody knows how Tomac rides. The guy rides hard, hard on the bike, hard on himself. He just WFO. The guy does not. He has no other way to ride. And then, yeah, he has fast, and then he has. I'm going to go really fast now. So I don't know. You like to think of it in the fitness terms of like, does Jet just have this massive base fitness to where he's raised his base so high that everybody else's ceiling is just above his base, and then his ceiling is so much higher that he has all this room to play with where he's comfortable in. And is that dirt bike related? Is that fitness related? Obviously it's probably both. You saw it at the first few rounds where he wasn't necessarily super comfy on the bike. So that comes into a factor. Like, where is the base level of comfort on the bike? Is his level of comfort close to everybody else's, like 100% level? And he's just like, oh, I can let it hang out a little bit, and that still takes him over the top. There's a lot more to it than just, like, for me in the Ironman world, it's 100% fitness, a little bit of equipment, I guess you'd say. But for them, it's so much more than just fitness and equipment. But I would say, like, somebody like Jet has just such a big base of everything all around that he can settle in at 75, 80% and be super comfortable. And then, he does the hard workouts. He does the hard sessions that he can maintain his heart rate, keep his body calm, whether it's his body or mind. And then when he does have to push or does get pushed by them guys, he just goes, oh, I'll just go 5% harder. And, he's still, like I said earlier with lactate, he's still not redlining. He's not producing more than what his body can shuttle out at a point. And I think he has a very good understanding of where he's at in his body, and he can just, I'm going to back it down. Maybe it's not my day. Eli's on a heater. Eli is just better than me today, and Jet will just say, hey, I'm cool with second. But I think that's happened once in all the races they've had. So yeah.
Completely agree, dude. I just wanted your opinion on that. And okay, loaded question here, but I want to ask it anyway. The highest I've ever gotten my VO2 max is 63. Okay. What is yours?
I genuinely have zero clue. It's
like, what does Garmin tell you when you're doing those hard stuff? I know, like, mine.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell me or no? You don't have to tell me.
Oh, I genuinely don't know. I mean, I don't track everything on my Garmin.
Okay.
And I mean, I do. It's in like the upper 60s, right around 70. Is where my Garmin tells me. Is that accurate? I have no idea. But it's also, to my default, then it would be I track so much stuff that you're in a constant state of fatigue. So it's tracking all this stuff on a constant state of fatigue, and it's probably, I genuinely don't know. I don't train off of VO2 because for me, I don't necessarily want the highest VO2. I want to have the biggest engine of available work that I can do, and be strong.
Gotcha.
So
you don't want to be
having a crazy high VO2 would be great for a sprinty effort. Not necessarily a 100 sprinter, but an 800 or a 5K or a 10K runner.
Yeah.
So I'm not chasing this crazy high VO2 score where for a 35-minute moto, you probably want a high score. But I genuinely don't know because it's not what I train off of. So that's probably not exactly the best answer. But now you tell me where my lactate zones are or where I want my heart rate to sit. Doing X amount of watts or a pace on a run. To me, that's the impressive stuff. That's what we chase. And there's guys in this sport, where yeah.
Well, for context, my watch was saying I was at 63 when I started racing the Boulder. And then because of how much I blew up, by the time I was finished, it went down to 53 because it was like you're doing 930 pace running, but your heart rate is at 180. You suck. Yeah. Is basically what my watch was telling me.
Tells you this is your new fitness level based off of this one event. Yeah.
Yes. And The reason why I ask is because I asked Prado and he told me it was like in the upper 70s. And I wasn't completely sure if he was giving me an honest answer. I have to give him the benefit of the doubt. However, it almost felt like he doesn't train on that at all or really pay attention. But I'm
Yeah.
assuming it's still pretty high. And so my carry-on question was like, what do you think Jet's VO2 max is?
You know, I don't know. I think, like, what do you want to call it? Just the person he is, or, his makeup as a person, he could have naturally, he could be sitting around not training and have a VO2 max of 65 and make us both look like fools. Or he could be somebody in the 40s who has had to work his butt off for it. There's people like where it's just they're gifted with genetics of freak athletes.
Yeah, bigger heart, bigger lungs.
Yeah, and
Blumenfeld.
you see like Blumenfeld in the Ironman world. I mean, his is like 100, one of the highest ever recorded. And the dude is crushing it at this sport. So is that something worth chasing? Possibly, but it's I genuinely don't know. I'm sure it's up there with. I'm sure it's above Prado's. I'm sure it's above them guys. And unless you go to a lab and get it tested, it would be hard to say because does Prado look at his Garmin and it tells him 70? It probably. Is Garmin's higher or lower? It's probably close. And, but like, okay, you take Prado on a dirt bike track and his fitness, he's going to make me look like a fool because he's in so much better shape for that specific event. Now you take us to a bike or running, and I'm going to, do the same to them guys. It's just to each their own and to each sport specific. And he does so much more high intensity that your VO2 max is based off a little bit more of your high intensity.
Okay. Well, just for context for some of the people watching, this is his actual chest. It's not his chest strap or anything. Like his ribs are pointed outwards, and it's to fit genetically bigger lungs and heart. And if you see him with his shirt off, you're like, this dude doesn't look fit at all. But if you've got bigger organs, you're gonna be better.
Yeah.
That was whenever I ask the pro motocross athletes, like, what is your max bench? What's your max mile? What is this? They honestly, I would say 7 out of 10 don't know. They don't even pay attention. They're like, oh, I ran a 630 once, and yeah, I don't.
It's something I think those guys should know. They're a professional dirt bike rider. When you do anything in life, whether it's yourself in finance or podcasting or social media or dirt bikes or triathlon or whatever, you should want to be quote unquote professional at whatever you do. If I want to start rowing, I want to be professional, learn as much as I can about that, dial in. Whether it's me, I don't lift weights as much as I used to, but still lift weights. When I go to the gym, I want intention of like, where am I at? What was my previous PR? What's, I need a percentage of my max that day. So I'm not just showing up to the gym of like, 35s sound good today for chest press, or 50s sound good today, or I'll do 135 in the bench, or I'll do 225. You need to know those things and be professional in everything you do in life, whether that's running, for these guys that are training, like, do they train off heart rate? Do they train off effort? Do they train off of an actual pace? I think a lot of guys in motocross, hey, after the season, go run a 10K event, get a baseline for where you're at on your running fitness, translate that into your training, because you're fatigued from the riding the dirt bike, you're fatigued from cycling, you're fatigued from rowing, you're fatigued from all these things. So translate that to just, your heart rate. I almost shipped away from training off heart rate now and train off of, I still do, I apply it, but it's more of like zones that would be based off of lactate or effort or pace or power, because that's proper. And still, I'm lifting everything else up. It's just heart rate can be so variable based on what you did the day before, 2 days before, 3 days before, that morning.
Your lactate. Okay, so your lactate 2. I'm just going to put it in the demographic of zone 2. Okay.
Yep. There you go.
What is that for you?
So for me, for running, if I want to go run at, say, a zone 2 effort, it's probably going to fall somewhere around the 6:20, 6:35 range, depending on the day, heat, cool, hot, cold, whatever.
Your
But
zone
like,
two
that's
is
where
running at
I'm going to fall.
6:20.
It's my long run pace. But now, like, you tell me zone 2 at the halfway point of a half Ironman, I am, it sure ain't 6:20 anymore. That's, I'm starting to redline there. But like, in a general term of like, big bike ride on Saturday, going into a long run on a Sunday, I'm going to fall around that just under 6:30, right around there. Yeah, my heart rate might be 150, 145 to 155, but it's a controlled effort that's still, I can recover well from that. So it's not like I'm not going to be completely smoked. Like, by the time I'm done with it, I'm like, it's an effort where you're like, oof, yeah, man, I'm glad that's done. But 10 minutes later, I'm like, oh yeah, we're feeling good. Let's go get a swim in. Let's go get a bike in. And that's where, some days that zone 2, my heart rate might be 145. Some days my heart rate might be 155, but the effort's still the same. I'm still getting the return on investment out of it. Where a lot of them guys, like, yeah.
Sorry, Cody. I didn't mean to stop you there. Like, generally, is it the end of zone 1 for you? Is it around 120, and then the high end of zone 2, 155 for you as a 30-year-old?
For me, it tends to fall around like maybe closer to like upper 120s to 130. But it depends. Like, yesterday I was a little bit fatigued from a massive run and some stuff, and my heart rate was just low. So as bad as that sounds, you'd think if you're fatigued, your heart rate's going to naturally be super high. Well, when you're fatigued, your heart rate gets really low. So yesterday I was biking, and I think I was right around like, just for terms of people that maybe don't know power or anything like that, like, okay, I was averaging 22 miles an hour, and my heart rate, I couldn't get it over 115, 120. And, just out there biking, cruising around, felt easy. But like, to me, that means my body's fatigued. That doesn't mean, oh man, I just got a ton of fitness built up over the last 5 days because my heart rate's really low. So for me, that's like a sign of, hey, let's back off. My heart rate's, and when I come into a race, I want to see my heart rate higher. I want to see it freshened up and, really just the body pumping blood at a better rate, pumping oxygen, everything. So it almost sounds counterintuitive, but when I get closer to a race day and I'm fresher, my heart rate's going to be higher. So in a way, it's almost like, okay, if I'm doing that zone 2, my heart rate's at 155. To me, that's a good thing because my body's fresh and ready to go. Rather than if it's really low, it doesn't necessarily just mean that I gained a ton of fitness. It's more of a, okay, I'm fatigued, maybe back off a little bit and let the effort come back down. So it can be counterintuitive sometimes along with that. And then, cycling, it's just in the term of power, my zone 2 would be probably, usually we keep it under like 280 watts, but so it'd be like maybe 260 to 280 for zone 2.
That's gnarly, dude, because I am kind of so my FTP is 260. And so anything over 260, I'm in zone 4, basically. Yeah. So, like the Ironman, I was averaging 220 for the 56 miles. And for you, what are you averaging watt-wise? What is your goal as you're doing the Ironman? Because I will say this, like, that is my most fun part of doing that stuff. Is people don't know how to go around corners or anything. They're dumb, but you being on the elite end because you've won a couple of these, do you still think that cycling is your biggest advantage of the 3?
Yes, I think my run's coming around. I think the strength that I have is making the run fun for me. But the cycling is definitely, it's intense, it's fast. Faster you go, the more fun it is. But the cycling was the only one I did while I was racing. And don't get me wrong, I did way less of it than I do now. Nowadays, I'm biking 10, 11 hours a week and, 200 to 250 miles a week at least. Where I used to maybe bike 2 times for an hour each. And that was what I did when I was racing. I did other stuff, but it's definitely the most fun. It's, man, you can just attack it. And especially if you get out of the water, and like for myself, it's like, okay, I swim 28, 29 minutes and a half. There's going to be guys that swim 25, 26, 27. So I have somebody to chase, and you can just get on there and hammer. And it's yeah, like you said, you can hammer. It's hard. It's fun. Your return on the investment's higher than running. Yeah, it's a blast.
What do you normally average watt wise when you're in the?
So usually my goal is to sit right around, like now at 290. Last year was right around 280. So this year right around 290. For me, when I can usually, my high end of like my LT2, which is a little bit different than my zone 2, but my LT2 would be up to, usually I can be good or under like 305 to 310 in the lactate. But then it gets into the term of like, okay, now I'm doing a lot of damage to my glutes and my hamstrings and all that stuff if I'm pushing over 300 watts. So by the time I get to the last half of the run, my glutes and hamstrings are smoked. So I need to, focus on just going a little bit less power, keep the heart rate around, that 160, low 160 range, and then be able to push, 280, 290. And as long as the speed's there as well, like that's another thing. The goal, course dependent, weather dependent, but like average, 27 to 28 miles an hour, chasing that is kind of like the speed target. So if the speed's there on lower watts, well, why crush yourself when you don't need to? Kind of the way I look at it.
Do you know what I mean? Do you go off a FTP on the bicycle?
I used to. Last year I did one, and my FTP was like 325. So, your functional threshold power for roughly an hour if you were going all out, which adds up pretty closely. This year we didn't really do a lot of work on my ceiling, especially yet. We did a lot of work on the base to get it up to where, like last year, my base was probably, 200 watts. 180 was like where my easy upper zone 1, low zone 2 rides would be. Where this year we did a ton of work all winter long to raise that ceiling up to 240 and then 260 and then 270. So I can get comfy sitting in there. So, essentially that would be like Ironman power or your easy long ride, which, isn't easy, but it's still if I was to prescribe a dirt bike rider with that, it'd be like, hey, go out, warm up, and then just settle into a comfortably hard pace for an hour, 2 hours. Like that's essentially it's comfortable. I can do this for 2, 3, 4 hours, but it's hard. That's kind of like a comfortably hard pace.
And you said something remarkable just a few minutes ago that you spend over 10 hours a week on the bicycle, right? And I see that you're at a job right now. What is your overall, are you doing 20, 30 hour training weeks?
No, usually for me, like my training, when I start a build into a race, usually sits around, when I'm just like maintaining, it's probably around 17 to 18 hours a week. Obviously there's mobility and a little bit of strength stuff, and then your commute and all that stuff thrown in there. So however you want to look at it, it could be more. When I'm building into a race, it'll usually start around 18 hours and then sit around 20 for maybe 6-8 weeks into it. And then maybe we up the volume and back off the intensity on some stuff, 2 to 3 weeks out, or vice versa, however it works out. But usually right around that 20 to 21 hours a week when I'm building into a race. And that's between swimming, biking, running. So it'd probably fall like 10 to 11 hours biking, 5 to 6 hours running, and then same, 4 or 5 hours swimming, which,
that sounds awful. That
yeah,
sounds
and
awful.
a little bit of strength thrown in and mobility and all that stuff. So it's, yeah.
Okay,
but yeah,
so
working 8 hours a day, it doesn't make it easy to find time for that.
So literally you are working 8 hours a day, Monday through Friday.
Yeah, I usually get about 40 to 50 hours of work in a week. A lot of people, whether it's dirt bikes or Ironman or cycling or whatnot, that. I mean, you got to make time when you can. And I mean, it's 4:15, 4:30 is a typical alarm clock for me in the morning, and trying to get stuff done. And, I get home from work and yeah, you're training. But I try to make it a priority to where by 7:30 at the latest I'm done. And that's, me and the fiance, we can go on a walk with the dog, have dinner, watch Netflix, and then chill and relax for the night. So that's huge. And if training starts to get in the way of anything else in life, I back off the training. Because nothing else, training is not as important as everything else in life. It's just I can make it work with my lifestyle right now, and that's the biggest thing is just having a whole picture of life, training, fun, and keeping it enjoyable. Because if you're not having fun, it's you're doing it for the wrong reasons.
So do you wake up at 5 a.m. to run or cycle or something, and then you're back at it at the night? Well,
Yeah. So usually, usually I wake up about 4:30. I'm trying to be at the pool or running. I try to get my pool work done in the mornings, just because I'm not gonna lie, if I put it off, it's hard to want to do it. Unless it's a massive swim, then I'll do it in the evening, just because I don't have enough time in the morning. My morning, I'll usually be starting a workout by 5:15. Get done, shower up quick. Everything's, food, lunch, breakfast, whatever's pre-made the night before. Grab that out the door, off to work. To work by 7. Get off work at 3:30 or so, and then get home, and whether it's a run or a cycle or whatnot, the evening is where I usually have a 2-hour window, to where I can anywhere from an hour and a half to 2.5 hours to get something in, and hard ride, long run. We do every Wednesday. I have a track session in the morning, so that's about an hour and a half. So that would be like my earliest, just most high intensity in the morning would be on a Wednesday.
so you're doing like 3-4 hours a day with the 8-hour. So you're basically doing like 12-hour days, essentially.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. I did not start at that. I did not, initially. I mean, I think maybe 3 years ago, before I took a little hiatus from triathlon, I was, 8-9 hours a week, 10 hours a week max. And I thought that was a lot then. So it's not something you just jump into, because that's a way to get hurt and to get burnt out, and then you just find a happy medium of, this works, like this is working, let's just keep it where it's at and slowly add on intensity. You're adding on all these little pieces to everything, and it's just slowly building up. But you just can't always add more volume, because your life stress is massive, and if your life stress is too high, well, training's going to go in the tank, your riding's going to go in the tank, your whatever it is. It's, you have to build up to a balance, and then just lift the ceilings of everything within that.
Yeah, dude, because whenever I try to do one of the Ironmans, I'm doing on the low end 7, on the high end 10 hours a week, and that kind of feels like a lot for me with having the little kid and working all day. So I do not get how you are able to do that much and still go and win these. With you winning, is there pro purse when you cross the finish line at a 73?
Yeah, so I mean, there
first?
definitely is. So I'm still actually an amateur in the age group field. I went to one I did a few months ago in Chattanooga, had a professional field, and something like that was, I think it's I want to say that was a $50,000 or $60,000 pro purse for obviously the pros. I can't remember there was like 60 male pros, and then like 3,500 amateurs. I want to say I was like 18th or 19th overall. I actually got second at that race to an amazing runner from Canada, and he just, I had the fastest bike split, he had the fastest run split, and he ran me down. And he's actually the beer mile world record holder, which to me is a badass record to have. So, and that alone is just something totally different. But he ran me down.
Okay, well, real quick, what is that? Beer mile record holder.
Oh yeah, so this is apparently a massive thing, and so it's at a track. This year it's in Portugal. Last year maybe it was in Spain or South America or something. But it's literally an event where, think of it as a mile, which is 4 laps around a track. The guy's name's Corey Bellamore, which he's a sub 4 mile runner, which I could not do that at all. I probably couldn't even beat his beer mile record, let alone without drinking the beer. But yeah, so it's 4 laps around a track. You start by just chugging a beer, and then you run a lap. You got to stop, another beer. You got to open it, drink it, set it down, take back off. So 4 beers, 4 laps around the track, which is a mile. And he did that in 4 minutes and 28 seconds, which is probably faster than I could run a standalone mile. He drank 4 beers in that and ran a mile.
That's that. Yeah. So what is you've won a couple of them.
Yep.
What is the goal for turning pro? Is it next year? Because dude, if you're putting in 20 hours a week at this stuff, like that to me already sounds like a pretty much a full-time job, because there's recovery in there, and that's not including travel. That's not including the food prep and everything.
Yeah,
So
no, I mean, the thought is there. It's, I guess the thought is there, and there's a lot of guys like, yes, and I know I wouldn't be the slowest pro out there, you know, and I could definitely get in the mix, but I guess being like a privateer in the motocross field and being like in the top 20s and stuff, and just never making it there, it's not that I'm scared of that. It's more just like why go through all that to when, you know, I wouldn't, why go through the process of like, oh, I want to be a pro and I want to be a mid pack or a mid upper pack pro and not enjoy it anymore. And it's not that I want to win at the age group level. It's just, it's fun. I can go race anywhere that I want, when I want, without, the sport's a little different. Like for us in dirt bikes, you can go race a pro-am, you can go race your local class and local race in A class. Everybody's pumped that you're there. If you're a pro and you go to these local races, it's kind of like, oh man, what do you know, you're taking our thunder, you're taking this away. You know, and then even in like that bigger Ironman events, like say Madison or Rockford that I just did close to home, it's you really can't do those. So for me, I don't want to have to travel across the country and race these events and maybe not make money or do all that. And plus, I mean, I have amazing sponsors, being an age group level and you know, being on one of the elite age group teams, amateur teams, who we have some pro athletes as well. So it's just, I'm in a great place with it. And yeah, I don't know. Essentially, probably next year, if I was to choose, I really want to chase the Kona goal. Like, as much as I don't want to go back to Kona because it was miserable, to me, that's my bigger goal is if I go pro, there's no way I'm going to go back to Kona. It's just those guys are on a different level. They're going 7.5 hours for a full Ironman. I'm not even going that fast for half the distance in a half Ironman. So I know I couldn't do that for a full. And
how is that even possible? It doesn't seem possible.
You know, and when you think about it, it's like, oh, they're only 6, 7, 8 minutes faster on the swim. Oh, that's not too much, you know. Okay, I biked 4:18, 4:20 in a full Ironman. Well, they're only 10, 15 minutes faster. Well, that's not that much. And then it's like, well, there's alone 20 minutes. And then all of a sudden it's like, well, their transitions are faster. And, you know, then you get to the run and some guy just ran a 2:26 full marathon off of swim and bike. How in the world? Like that's not far off of Olympic standard qualifying times. And he biked and swam before that. It's gotten raced at such a high level. And I mean, I'm not a sub-3 runner. If I could pick my run up, I think that's where I would consider it. Because biking, I'm definitely there. Swim is getting close. And the run is just, for me, it's, 118, 119 is where I'm at on the half off the bike. In reality, I would like to be 114, 115, maybe 116 before I make the jump. And just, if I want to go pro, I want to be confident to where I could just slot in and be, be somebody in the field.
Mm-hmm. And I think Linus and them have talked about like trying to be 115, 110 at the most, which that's just brutal fast.
Well, that guy you brought up earlier with the 100 VO2 max, I think he ran a 106 or a 107 and a half. I mean, that's 14 minutes in one of the disciplines. That is insane. I mean, that's like almost a 5-minute mile pace for a half marathon off the bike and the run. And yeah, I can't run that fast. I literally can't.
Yeah.
So
with trying to recover, what do you come off of when you know that, hey, you shouldn't do a hard training day? Do you go off a heart rate? What do? Do you go off of like sleeping? What is it that you say, hey, this is what I have programmed for the day, but I need to take a day off?
Yeah, so I got a coach who overlooks my whole program. I have a lot of input into that. I have a swimming coach involved in that program, and then my whole coach for the whole program. And I guess we go over a lot of it together. We train together quite often, running, biking. So we're together a lot. Recently, which is funny you bring that up, recently my life stress, my life TSS has been through the roof. And in the best way possible, though. Just we bought a house we're getting married in 3 weeks, my fiance and I. And so between, helping with the wedding, which she's doing a great work on, by the way, and then doing restoration of the house and all that stuff, it's gotten to the point where I think this week I had 2 bike workouts where I was supposed to be doing stuff, and I got on, and about 2 minutes in, I'm just like, absolutely not. This is going to be an easy ride, and I just went out and enjoyed it. So it's knowing the intention of a session, whether that's dirt bike related or triathlon related or whatever. What's the intention of the session? What's the main days of the week? Like, I got a hard run on Wednesday, a hard bike on a Thursday. Everything else is filled in around that. A hard run on Sunday and a hard bike on Saturday. So everything else is filler. But if I'm too tired to do those sessions well, then all I'm doing is just hurting myself in the long run. So these little sessions that, they mean something, but they might not be as important, change those around. Make those easy. Make those extra easy so I can do the harder stuff better. It's kind of like a lot of people just refer to it as staying out of the gray zone. So like your easy can be here and your hard can be here. Well, if you make your easy a little bit easier and your harder, it's going to be better, because then you're raising your ceiling more, and you're just not so fatigued. But yeah, if I'm not sleeping well, which the last 2 months, I don't know if I've slept over 7.5 hours one night, which is absolutely not ideal for an athlete.
Well, if you're waking up at 4:30 to go swim or anything, that's
I mean, we've been getting back from working on our house at 9-10 o'clock at night a lot of nights, and I've been trying to wake up, and there's been a lot of coffee drank, a lot of espresso shots poured, a lot of Red Bulls cracked open. But it's part of it. It's going to slow down at some point, and it's maintaining. I cut a run short yesterday. I cut out a few of the intervals at the end because my body could do it, but I'm just mentally foggy. So it's like when you feel those little things coming on, it's just like, hey, cut it short, and and then that can be for anybody with dirt bikes too.
An upcoming Ironman. When's your next one?
So just raced Rockford a week and a half ago. I got Muncie, Indiana coming up here in another week and a half, and that one, I won that one last year, so it'd be cool to go back there and get 2 in a row there. But then after that, I think I'm just going to be shutting it down for the year, kind of build back up, and try to do a late season Ironman is probably the goal. Haven't really fully decided yet, but I would like to get a slot for Kona this year sometime, so I can just have all next season to fully focus on preparing for that and doing the best I can.
So you haven't already gotten a slot with winning a couple of them so far?
No, so the 70.3s, you earn slots for 70.3 worlds, and then the fulls you earn for the full worlds. Well, this year it's split, and it's in Nice, France, is the full Ironman World Championships. So I necessarily, not that I don't want to go there, it's not a goal that I have. I would rather go to Nice, France as a vacation and not bring a bike and just enjoy it, or go watch the Tour de France coming up here. So for me, it's like, what's the only goal that I have that, I've won these races, I've done this, I've done that. What's the only goal that I haven't done that I have on my short-term list is, whether that be winning Kona or getting on the podium at Kona or doing the best I can there. That's what drives me at the moment to do that. So when I look at it, it's like, all right, that's what drives me. That's what my next goal is, and that's what I'm going to chase. So
Cody,
yes,
a small overview on, this is more for like me, right? What does your training week look like? Is Monday an hour swim, then a 2-hour bike ride, Tuesday hour run? Like, what is it? Do you mind going over Monday through Friday?
Yeah, so I guess a normal week for me is broken up into, I guess I would say, like two kind of blocks. So it's a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday block, and then a Saturday, Sunday block. Monday is always going to be super easy, still getting my 2 sessions in. Friday is going to be super easy, getting my 2 sessions in. So for me, Monday would probably, so I guess going to the week before, it'd be always going to be a big run on a Sunday and a bike, usually an easy bike. This is where maybe I'll throw the dog in my back in a backpack, go out with the fiance, and we'll go bike just whatever we feel like, wherever we feel like, maybe grab a coffee, grab dinner, or whatever. But, get an hour, 2 hours in the bike. So then Monday's going to be super easy. Wake up, go to the pool, get some easy work in, form focused, maybe 45 minutes to an hour, and then Monday night would be just an easy ride, flushing the legs out. That could be anywhere from, like you said, an hour to 2 hours, depending on what I'm trying to add for volume that week. Tuesday is going to be, I might introduce running back into it for the week if I didn't have a massive run on Sunday. So Tuesday would usually be a 3-discipline day. So I'd probably have a swim in the morning. And this is going to be probably a high intensity swim, maybe some hundreds, 50s, with form focused stuff as well. Have a short, easy run, and then I'll probably do something with like 30-30s or hills or something to add some strength, some VO2, some strength into a bike, and that's probably gonna be like a 90-minute bike. So then that would be Tuesday. Wednesday is where it gets pretty big. Wednesday would be like a hard track session, so anywhere from probably 12 to 14 miles, with maybe 6 to 8 miles of that being work, and that's a lot of work under my race pace. So anywhere from like 550 down to sub 5 minute pace work. And then so that's a 12 to 14 mile run in the morning. And then Wednesday night would usually be a 2 to 2.5 hour endurance ride. So that's where we were talking earlier with like a zone 2, getting up, holding 240, 260, 280 watts, just kind of whatever the body wants to do, because you're still fatigued from the morning. So whatever the body tells you, hey, this is what I want to do today, we're pushing that. We're going out, we're riding hard, but having fun and just riding hard for 2 to 2.5 hours. Getting on to Thursday. Now Thursday is going to be, so Wednesday I didn't swim. So I swam Monday, Tuesday, didn't swim Wednesday, focused on the other two. Thursday is probably going to be another possibly 3-sport day where I swim in the morning, and then have a hard threshold or race effort. It depends seasonally, but another 1.5 to 2 hour bike ride, and then a gentle jog, just kind of, letting the body recover, nothing too hard, just adding simply running volume. Friday then is going to be another easy day where I'll swim again in the morning, and then have just kind of a easy run, maybe get up around 6-7 miles, just kind of let the body do whatever it feels like, but in the back of my mind thinking, okay, set yourself up for a good weekend, don't hurt yourself. Saturday then is just pretty much a monster bike ride. Last weekend I did 104 miles in 4 hours and like 10 minutes. So just get out, hammer, ride hard, ride fast. Yeah, just ride and enjoy. I went out with my brother, and he's getting ready for his first 70.3 actually in Muncie in a week and a half. So I've been training him with that, and it's been a blast just getting out with him. And whether I'm
younger or
on
older?
his wheel or he's on mine. 2 years younger, and he has no background in this sport, no background in motocross. Well, when he was super young, but so for him, it's been fun to get him from a baseball, football player to this kind of guy. So it's been fun to see his progress. And I got another buddy that grew up racing motocross with forever named Gavin, who's doing some with us this summer also. So it's been fun to transition those guys into this and see how much people that race motocross are just, you love the intensity, and it's just like the sport is so intense. As much as some people think cyclists or runners are lame, like this sport is intense. It's awesome. Like you can, I don't know, there's just something about it. It's like motocross. Motocross is a drug. The adrenaline, the dopamine, the whatever kick you get from it. This sport is the same way. It's just you're not doing 60 miles an hour and ragdolling a few times a month.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I have crashed on the bicycle before, and I can tell you that does not feel good when you're sliding across the highway doing 30 miles an hour and your butt gets pretty tore up.
Tell me about that, because it seems somewhat a lot harder to crash on it had to have been a corner or something that you went into and hit something.
Yeah. I genuinely don't know what happened. I was just riding. I've crashed a few times. A lot of times it's like you said, it's catching that paint with water on it or something, and you just lose the front and crash. The last one I had was like a week and a half out from actually Chattanooga earlier this year. And I just came around a turn, and the pavement kind of, off one road and then the other road, there was some potholes and stuff. And it just caught my tire right and blew it off the bead. So instantly went flat, and I laid it down, and, I'm sliding and probably slid, 50 to 100 feet off into the ditch. And, you're sliding on your hip, and you're like, oh man, that's really getting hot. And you roll over, and your other hip gets hot, and you just start rolling. And I had so much road rash from my ankle to my knees and hips, and yeah, oh gosh, yeah, that was brutal. But still rather do that than crash a dirt bike ever again. So
I hear you, dude. So with the bicycle, What is the biggest upgrade that you've had? Is it just the aero, the full disc rear wheel that made a huge difference? I mean,
Yeah, so I work with Envy, and they make amazing wheels that have, I mean, whether it's comfort or anything, like it's the wheels are huge, and the front wheel's massive, which and then the rear wheel just helps just as much, and it even just adds a cool sound, you know, where it's whoop, 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 and makes you feel faster, and I mean, it helps dramatically. The you know,
how much faster is a full big disc wheel than just the, what do they call them? Where they're half discs,
just
like the depth.
yeah, just say like a 60 or 80 mil rear wheel.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, I want to say over like a full Ironman, NV says probably right around like 2 minutes and 45 seconds to like over 3 minutes faster for the same effort, because just the way the air flows across it, and it keeps the air cleaner and less dirty, which is mind blowing how much that helps. I mean, that's huge. You know, for the same effort, you can literally just do 3 minutes faster, and that's one piece.
Mhm. I mean, an expensive piece. It's like
Yeah, very
3
expensive.
grand, but
Yeah, but if you're invested that much, I mean, the bike alone's 10-15 grand. So it makes. I thought I was getting into a cheap sport, and I started buying stuff for this, and I was like, oh boy, this is just as expensive as riding dirt bikes. So that was a bit depressing. But and even the new kit, like from Roca, like our speed suit and race suit. I mean, for having a good fitting race suit, that's 25-30 watts. So when you're translating that to time, I mean, that's another 3, 4, 5 minutes over the course of a race, just by having a good form fitting suit. And
just the leotard is
yeah,
that much
literally, I mean, just how it's crazy by having like little wrinkles everywhere, and like my t-shirt has on it, if you get rid of all those wrinkles, that's just time and airflow, and the air going over you better. And even like translating that to dirt bikes, it doesn't translate exactly the same because it's aerodynamics, but like, okay, some of these super tight clothing, that's just the air that then you and the bike has to pull forward. So I mean, I'm sure that it's minimal on a dirt bike, but okay, like if you're a little extra heavy, a little bit more airflow sucking you back, all the loose fitting clothes, tighten that stuff up. I mean, it might be, it might not be a lot, but like by the end of a race, I would bet that it has to be 4, 5, 6, 7 seconds, just from over the course of a whole 20-30 minute race. And I mean, if that's a pass up a hill, or I do wonder what that translates to. Just like being aerodynamic, because on a bicycle and stuff like that, it's absolutely massive. I'm pushing watts where dirt bikes are pushing horsepowers, but
it's pretty relative though. But I mean, a dirt bike
like,
averages 30 miles an hour around motocross track, with sometimes doing 60. If you had like what Fox had, that new leotard, you might do 61, 62.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it would be. I'd be very interested to see what that would do. And obviously, I'm not saying get the spaceship helmets like we got or anything like that, but there has to be some translation to where it would help. It would do something. Even just like Millville, long start stretch. You're not telling me if you're more aerodynamic. I know Hayden Deegan gets pretty aerodynamic nowadays off the start. I mean, his head's below that, and he's pulling a lot of hole shots. I mean, there's something to it. And I'm not saying that it's everything, but there has to be something there that if it translated, it's time. I mean, even just okay, like you're wearing some big baggy jersey, it's flopping in the wind. Well, now you got to hold yourself up stronger, so you're wasting strength to hold yourself up from stuff that wants to pull you backwards. Because everybody knows like Jet, Chase Sexton, they have perfect form over the front. Well, if Chase Sexton with his Alpine Star gear, I think Jet wears Alpine Star also. I mean, that's pretty tight fitting stuff. If they have some big baggy floppy jersey and pants and all that stuff, I mean, that's going to want to pull them back farther, and then they're just fighting themselves more to hold themselves up. So even in that aspect, strength based.
It is interesting you say that, because it almost sounds ludicrous, because you just go, oh, this is stupid, skin tight stuff, maybe a more aero helmet, like this is all bullshit, because moto guys, it's hardcore, it's kind of redneck, you just go out there and you push hard. However, the data does not lie, and I will say that from being in triathlon, it makes a big difference. So I wouldn't see why it wouldn't make even, I mean, guys are chasing titanium bolts. They're
Yeah.
they're
I
chasing
mean,
where they're printing the stickers onto the shrouds because they don't want the weight of the stickers. You
yeah.
gonna
I mean,
tell me
that's
that
this to me would be a bigger gain than that. You know, I mean, yeah. I mean, you put a dirt bike with a rider on it in a wind tunnel, and there has to be some translation to like, oh, this or that, or there's got to be something. And would it be everything? Probably not. But I mean, it's got to be over the course of a race. I mean, all right, even if it is 15 seconds, 10 seconds, all right, that puts Eli in front of Jet in a lot of these motos we've had this year. Maybe it is something.
shit, dude. Right there, you said it, man. So that is something to be said. I know I said I was gonna let you go right about an hour. So fun question.
All
The
good.
Tour de France is going on right now. Is
Yes.
Taddy fucking gonna own everybody, or is Vindigar
Oh
gonna beat him?
man. Yeah. Tade he is something else. He's fun to watch. Those two. I mean, you know, I really hope that somebody else gives them guys a run. But I mean, they're on another level. I think Jonas, Tade's been here for so long, and Jonas's seasons seem to like creep up, and he peaks right at the tour, where Tade's just peaked, 24/7, 365. But oh, man, I can't wait. I'm excited. I hope that Jonas has a good team around him, because in that sport, unfortunately, the team is huge, and Tade has a powerhouse of a team. So yeah, I can't wait to watch it. I hope Remco and all them other guys are up there battling. I'm a huge Wout fan, so what was that? Maybe 2 or 3 years ago when Wout was flapping his wings when he was winning and breakaways from the peloton to win some stages, and pretty much just said "F you" to the team, and I'm going to win these stages and hang on to yellow for as long as I can. That was so cool. So
Yeah, and he's
hopefully
pretty much
something like
more
that
of a
happens.
sprinter too. So
Yeah.
him getting uphill is pretty impressive. I can't believe that Taddy was averaging over 400 watts over the Alps, dude. That to me is just mind blowing.
Yeah, being a cyclist, and even if you're not a good cyclist or a good cyclist, like the numbers that those guys put out, and even like, okay, I'm 25, 30 pounds heavier than that guy. I'm not a big dude anymore,
How heavy are you?
but right around 160,
How tall are you?
give or take, 5'9", 5'10". So for me, it's like if you're putting it in like watts per kilogram, my race effort would be like 4 to 4.1 watts per kilogram. So like 71, 72 kilograms. So cycling's funny. We use metric, American, all that sorts of stuff.
Yeah, mine's
So
3.4. So
yeah, which is still, I mean, amazing. That's and I don't, the higher you push, it's like your return on investment gets lower. But you're just looking for them little bits of things, kind of like what we were saying with Tomac and Jet. It's like those guys are so close with Aaron, whatever. Like you're not looking for a second a lap or this a lap. You're looking for a tenth of a second in 5 places in 2 laps. Like you're looking for minimal things. And yeah, with Tade and them guys, I mean, I couldn't imagine pushing 400 watts. I mean, I do that. That's my, oh yeah, I'll do that for 30 seconds or 40 seconds interval, and they're like, oh yeah, we'll do that for the next 20 minutes. That's
well, even watching Linus stuff where he does 10 by 5s, 5 minutes, and every 5 minutes he's doing 400 watts for the full 5 minutes. And I'm just going, holy shit. And then again, back, Taddy was doing 400 watts for 45 minutes after already like 80 miles, and
Yeah.
another hard climb was just insane.
Yeah, and I do think like if we could get motocross guys to this level of fitness, like to me it's almost like if we could just get people to ride once less per week and add into the fitness side of stuff, cycle like a professional cyclist, run good, strength train like somebody who, get rid of all this interval stuff. Like you're already going hard on the bike, be ready to ride when you're riding. But if you could get professional at other sports, it's going to translate so much more to these sports. Like when I got back into racing after doing a few years of triathlon a little bit, I was going to do races, and I mean, whether it was a local pro-am or Loretta's or whatnot, and like my average heart rate would be in the, upper 150s to 160s for a a hard moto. And I mean, you see all this stuff like guys racing Supercross. Oh, 180, 190. Well, I wasn't trained for Supercross or motocross, but like I just would jump on a dirt bike and go as fast as I could, and that was fast enough to win any local race, and my heart rate would be in the 150s. So, all right, you get back to training now, and you have that base of like, well, I'm super comfy here at 150. Well, now I can lift my ceiling. So it's like, okay, if I got super comfy there and actually started training again, it was almost the thought of like, man, if I went back to being professional, like what could this fitness that I now have with what I used to do and be like that? Because I used to, train hard, but it was just a little bit of everything thrown into a bucket and picking it out of there, and I worked hard and I love doing that. And yeah.
Well, and everyone, you ride so hard that you end up going to the races worn out.
Yes.
Right?
And
There's no good taper. Like,
yeah.
Dude, I think about the same thing. A couple weeks ago, I did 2 30-minute motos. My average heart rate was 135 to 145.
Yeah.
And
I mean, the proof is in the pudding. It's right there, Like you did that 10 years ago riding your dirt bike, you'd have been, in the 170s, but like that might have felt the same effort, but like your body is showing you that, hey, I have this much more to give. So now, okay, you're not doing 1 lap sprints or section sprints anymore, but now you start sprinkling in that 1 lap sprints, that section sprints. Now that speed comes back, and now you have so much more room to play with, like Jet. Jet has that huge 20% to play with of like, I'm going to go this much faster. That's the piece right there, where he has such a big base of, like we were saying, of everything, not just fitness, not just riding skills, bike equipment. Like he has so many pieces that he has that little bit extra on that he can sprinkle them all in, and they work perfectly together. And even some of the kids that I've been working with now that are going to be racing at the combine here coming up at Redbud, like it's funny what you said with, they come in so cooked to all this stuff. This week it's 90 degrees here in Wisconsin and Illinois area. And I'm like, hey, look, just chill. You guys are fit. You guys are ready on the bike. You're getting ready for Loretta's, all those things. And I'm like, just chill out. We're doing easy workouts, keep the body activated. And then it's almost like, hey, easier's easier this week. And right before the event, I'm going to throw in some sprints on the bike, some sprints on the run. And you're going to like reactivate the body so it's sharp for race day, but you're not tired. So now you can come into this race fresh and just perform how they want to be. And, I think for those guys, they'll do well this weekend, but even coming into Loretta's, I think they should be.
Well, that's the worst feeling of coming into a race. And then you're all like, oh, I'm amped. But then when you go to execute and you've got the adrenaline pumping, but then you're like, fuck, I'm tired and you can't push. Then that just hurts with your mentality where you're like, I can't hang with these guys. I don't have it. And it's because you've been overworking. Because Cody, before I let you go into how much time it takes to recover from a hard effort. If you're in a zone 5 for an hour or something, you can't just go do that again the next day. You got to recover.
100%. And, and like you said, maybe you can do it the next day and the next day after that. But 3, 4, 5 days down the road, you are so smoked, and a lot of these guys, they just go do 20s, they go do 30s, 40-minute motos. Well, if you're pounding those 2 or 3 days a week in a row down in Florida or California or Texas or wherever, by, then it's like, oh, okay, cool. We got Friday, Thursdays off, Fridays, press day at the race, and you're racing on Saturday. You are smoked on Saturday. You have nothing extra to give. So it's like, hey, let's do some motos, but like, let's just take a whole day and just do technique, section work, So now you had a hard day. You got some sprints. So like for me, in an ideal day, like a little bit off topic, but like, okay, get back from a race on a Monday, have off, easy, long bike ride and get some light strength work, activation stuff in. Tuesday's going to be a massive day. You're doing long motos and some strength work off the bike. All right, well then Wednesday, you just had a massive day. Wednesday, let's just go do starts for 2 hours. Obviously not every amateur can do that because it's going to beat up their bike, but like, let's go do starts for 2 hours. Let's go do figure 8 work. Let's go do section work, track work, learn all these little skills that Jet has that seemingly nobody else has in the industry, now, working all these little things, wheeling over bumps, stupid stuff that you might never think of, but like, you might be at Millville coming down some of them big hills and staring at massive potholes. And that random section work that you worked on a Wednesday 3 months ago, you just instinctively wheelie over or jump over or flip the throttle and you're over that. It comes into play somewhere. All right, well, now guess what? You're fresh for Wednesday. Now Wednesday, maybe do a long warm-up, maybe like 1 20-minute moto just to like keep the body active in the endurance state. Go pound out a bunch of 1-lap sprints, half-lap sprints. All right, now you're sharp, you're fresh, you're ready for the weekend. Throw in some cycling there, throw in some activation work, go to the track, learn the track on Friday, keep press super chill, maybe throw in some fast laps. And then guess what? You're fresh for Saturday. Now you have you got all your work in during the week, you have an extra gear, you didn't smoke yourself, you get your work done in the morning when it's not super hot, and you're good to go. Because if you just stack up 3 days of zone 5 riding in a row, doing just pounding 30s, well, guess what? It's going to take you 3 or 4 days to recover from that. And guess what? That's Sunday or next Monday, and you totally blew your race day on Saturday. Because I had a super long ride on last Saturday, and it didn't hit me till Monday. On Monday I was just like, oh man, I am smoked from that ride. It's just it's the late onset muscle soreness and anything.
So if you could do it over again, I'm guessing you would lower the intensity on the motorcycle, but you would up the volume of training.
Yeah, I would. And motocross is funny because you get hurt a lot, which sucks. And it could be a wrist injury, it could be a knee injury, it could be whatever, and you ride through it. You do this, so you're doing rehab, prehab, all these things all the time. So it's hard to almost build for anything. But even if you are hurt, you can still do something. You can progress somewhere in the package. I would do more sprint work. I was notorious for, I'm just going to outwork everybody. So if that's doing 240s on a Tuesday and 240s on a Thursday, that's what I wanted to do. And I think I was fit, but I was just riding at 85, 90% all the time because I never had 110% and I didn't know how to ride at 70%. I never, I did section work and easy work, but I didn't do it enough. I didn't do it enough to recover. I practiced starts. I was always very good at starts. So, I did that, but, I would do much more volume outside of this. When you ride with intention, ride hard, ride with it's too dangerous. There's too much going on in motocross to not ride with intention. So you have to be locked in and, ride with a purpose. And outside of that, tons of easy volume. A lot of the kids that I train, I'll tell them, hey, you're not a professional cyclist. Who cares if you ride at 13, 14, 15 miles an hour for a ride? But just go ride your bicycle for 2 hours and enjoy it and keep that heart rate low, because you're burning a certain system that I want you to burn, that when you go to race day, perfect example, Aaron Plessinger. I kind of brought him up earlier. All right, I think Aaron Plessinger burns way too much carbs early on in the first 10, 15 minutes of a race trying to keep up with Jet Eli. So therefore, at 30 minutes in, 25 minutes in, his body's exhausted of all of the energy source that's in him. And now he just hits a wall. He's got the speed, but those guys maybe do more base work to where for the first 5-10 minutes, they're burning a better fat to carb ratio, which is getting super scientific, but they're burning a better ratio to where they do have that little bit of fuel left for the last half the moto, the last 5 minutes of the moto, to where when they do go to push, they can push. And that just comes down to, I would have done way more volume off the bike, but then had, hill sprints where I'm just sprinting up a hill for a minute, walking my butt back down for 2 minutes. So I have that ceiling, but I also have this huge volume of where I can sit in a comfortable zone when I am racing and then push it when I need to.
Dumb question.
Yep.
Would it be advantageous for a rider's, like, this is just, again, I like this word, hypothetically, would it work out in a 35-minute moto right at 20 minutes, having something to where you slow down for 2 or 3 seconds, you take a gel or something to get some more carbs to then, would that be helpful for Eli?
Yeah, I mean, it probably would. You do burn a lot in a short period of time, and for a 40-minute race, I mean, yeah, I mean, I don't see why it wouldn't. In the maybe not slowing down, but there would have to be something where, all right, in the front of your helmet, there's that little out thingy where it's ventilation pretty much for stuff coming in. Could you put something there with like some which way where they're all talented enough to where they can flick something down and put it into their mouth when they're in the air. Is there some which way where you could have a gel or something like that at the 20-minute mark, 25-minute mark? There's got to be. Or a drink bottle.
If we're talking like with all the aero stuff that we've been going over, would that make a considerable amount of difference to where, like at Southwick, you might not have had Levi slow down or AP slow down? They could have continued on. I mean, it sounds kind of ridiculous for the way of thinking that moto has been forever. But if you're talking about the systems from what you're saying, your carb ratio to you, they're burning a lot. They need something, right? But
and even if it didn't help out, which yes, I think it would. I think it would help for that last 5 minutes. You take a precision hydration gel or whatnot, and you slurp on that. It's going to give you 30 grams of carbohydrates for that last little bit, which is huge. But okay, now you got to turn around and do that over again at 45 minutes later. You've already restarted even if you can finish that moto strong, you've already restarted the refueling process during that moto for the next moto. So now you get off the bike and you want to have carbs. You want to have, probably not necessarily proteins exactly at that moment, but you want carbs. You want some beet juice. You want stuff instantly as soon as you're off that. If I was on those guys that are on the podium, the first thing I would do as soon as they get off that bike, I'm handing them a Coca-Cola. They're drinking that. They're going to have their sports drink. For me, it'd be like precision fuel and hydration with their sodium and then carbohydrates, and you're hammering that. So now instantly you're getting carbs back into your system. You're getting sodium, electrolytes back into your system. And now you're fueling up for that next race. Yeah, you probably don't want to go have a big meal, but get some white bread and have a small sandwich or whatnot to fuel your carbs. So you don't want to be full going to that next moto, but that 45 minute to an hour window, like those guys are just hammering the water right off the bat. Yeah, you probably want that, but that is not the best thing for you. You want to have carbs and electrolytes instantly to recover for that next moto. So that gel might just speed up that process for that next moto an hour later. Interesting. There has to be a way to where you can get that into your body, during the race. And they would think it would help.
The only thing I would think of is with the heart rate being that high, could you digest it? Right. So it's something to think about, dude. I love the conversation. And Cody, it has been a effing pleasure, dude. And I can't wait to see you turn pro and just continue to win. I've learned a lot from you, man. Not just on the motorcycle, but off with training. You've helped me a lot. Like you're telling me about that Red Bull stuff. I fell flat on my ass after the last boulder. I felt good. I started running. I was doing 7:45s for the first 6 miles. And then dude, I don't know. It went from 7:45 to 11 minutes, just like that. And so from mile 6 to 10, I found a fan that was giving out Red Bulls, because they don't give out Red Bulls anymore at the Ironman. And they must have lost a sponsor or something. But anyway, I took the whole can and I was like, I'm going to chug the whole can at mile 10. Either I'm going to throw up or I'll finish. So at mile 10, I got like my 11-minute pace, which sucked. But I just walked and I chugged the whole can. And then I went back down to 8 minutes for, well, not quite 8 minutes, around 8:30s for the last 3 miles. And it helped out.
Mile 10, 11 of every 70.3, I'll start drinking the hand out Coca-Cola. Middle of a race, redlining, running as fast as you can, I'll start drinking Coca-Cola because I want that rush of sugar and caffeine. I want it in my body. I mean, people don't utilize that, which motocross sounds funny. I know we want to keep getting going here and stuff, but there's so much that I think people could learn that I've learned from this sport that I truly, truly want to give back. And I know like Alex Martin is dabbling in endurance sports and stuff, and he's been, bringing that to motocross.
In the marathon.
I mean, he's been crushing it. To think a motocross athlete could go to a 240 marathon. I mean, we're all beaten up. Dude, it's so cool. It's so cool. But I think that there is so much that motocross in the nutrition side and the marginal gains are missing out on that, will just help take the sport to the next level. And a lot of the top guys, they train hard, they train a lot, and it's that mid-pack, back of the pack guys. I don't think that they train enough, and they, might be excuses as to why or not, but like if they could, and I was guilty of that when I was racing, you're so busy doing stuff, but these little marginal gains I think would help huge in the motocross industry. And
I know I said I'm letting you go here. Just last thought. Zone 2 workouts are so much fun. They're so much fun. Whether you're cycling or running, you have a conversation, you go with somebody. Sometimes I'll just call a friend and we'll have an hour conversation. You know, it's like it's me time, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's what fuels you to keep going and not get burnt out.
Yeah.
With dirt bike racing, it's always zone 4, zone 5, go as hard as you can. And you physically can't. And everything that we consume from social media or whatnot, you just see videos of Tomac just fucking zone 5, just hauling ass. Like you
Yep.
can't do that. And we live in a world of moto where these guys get burnt out quickly. They
Yeah.
do 33 fucking races a year. And then you mean to tell me that like you have guys like Chad Reed and stuff says that, hey, we ride at 150% during the week to be ready for the weekend. And it's impossible. It doesn't make sense. That's
Yeah.
not how you should do it.
Yep.
So
I guess the sport we're in now, they used to train the way the motocrossers trained back in the 70s, 80s, 90s, and they progressed differently to where now this sport that I'm in, you're getting into, I've been in, it's taking off. Everything has been through the roof. Not a direct correlation, but like if they kept it easier when they wanted it. When you're asked to go easy, go effing easy. When you're asked to go hard, go hard. You know, if your base is lower, if your zone 1, zone 2 is low, or you know, your zone 4 can only be so high. If your zone 1 and 2 can be higher, guess what? Your zone 4 is gonna be through the roof. So it all correlates, and yeah, I really do want to get back to the sport and bring some of this knowledge in, and you know, whether that's an amateur kid that's coming up through or a pro, I just love talking. I'm passionate about fitness. I love talking it to people, and
so how could somebody get a hold of you if they're an amateur kid going for Loretta's and they want your help?
Yeah, you can reach out to me on social medias, pretty much just Instagram, Cody Williams _167, and you know, whether it's just some basic. And I'm not a nutritionist, so I'm not going to give you a diet program, but it's just stuff that's going to help on race day, or products that I've used, personally used, have tried, and whatnot, and even just advice to how to structure a program. You know, there's so many where it's just like you said, go hard all the time, and I think those days are in the past of where that's proven not to be good. And you see it in NBA, NFL. I mean, those guys, they don't train hard all the time, maybe once or twice a week, but when they do train hard, it's effing hard, you know. But a lot of it is just keeping yourself healthy, and that's the biggest one. Is if you're going 100% all the time, the odds of you being healthy for a 10-year stretch are slim. So yeah, but just with everything in life, you got to enjoy it. You enjoy doing podcasts. I enjoy talking about fitness. I enjoy being on here. You know, if you're not enjoying anything, then whatever you're doing is not worth it. So that's the most important thing.
Dude, it's the exact reason why I don't go to every race.
Yeah.
You know, even to cover media wise, it's because it's too much fucking work. It's going hard. But when I am there, it's fucking going hard. But anyway, Cody, I appreciate the hell out of you. Thanks for coming on the podcast. I will have his link in the description. So if you want to get a hold of him and just follow his journey, because he keeps getting fitter and fitter, and I'm quite jealous of his fitness. So, but then when you hear that he's waking up at 4:30 and then he's working 8 hours and then his training days is 3-4 hours, it's like, okay, back to real life, that it just doesn't happen without the work. The hard work pays off, and this SOB does the hard work. So thanks for coming on, Cody. Until next time. Dang right.